All right, everyone. Thank you for joining me again today. Today we have Jackson Liberty head coach Dana Costello. Dana, thank you for joining me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Um, First, you have an advantage of the coaches I interviewed last week. You had like a whole week, almost a whole week to see your team on the field,
Yeah.
actually going up against each other instead of just doing drills and I guess conditioning workouts. First, how long have you been coaching at Jackson Liberty?
So this is going to be my second year as the head coach. A few years back, I was the assistant coach for Sarah Hayek. I went to OCC for a year in between just to kind of check out that scene a little bit, and coached under Jen Ritter, who is another unbelievable coach. So, I've got a lot of great experience as an assistant coach, and it was just time for me to step in and be a head coach, and I took over last year as head coach at Jackson Liberty.
You're an assistant coach, right? Basketball?
I am, yes.
Yeah, thought so. What made you get into coaching?
I think that my passion for sports in general, and especially for the two sports that I played my entire life, would not allow me to leave sports and to do something that was unrelated. So that was probably the main thing. I still, stay in great shape. I still play soccer at a pretty competitive high level. So I just love the sport in general. I also had so many great coaches in my life that not only helped me grow as a player, but as a person. And I wanted to be able to give back to them and continue, kind of that little bit of a legacy that they created and pass those things down. I'm a Jackson Memorial alumni, and I had a great time at Jackson Memorial playing sports and playing for Drew Gibson and playing for Rachel Goodale. And there's just so many great coaches that came out of that school, and at Liberty as well. So, I wanted to continue that, and I wanted to be able to impact a lot of people's lives the way that my life was impacted.
Yeah, everyone talks so highly of Rachel. My niece did the little baller camp last year. My sister actually just emailed Rachel. My niece and nephew will be doing the little baller camp in October. She's great, with the young kids, and you could tell she's a great coach. Her two assistants, former players, they love coming back to coach with her.
Yep.
Just great.
Both of them.
So who was your coach when you were at Memorial for soccer?
Drew Gibson.
Now Jackson Memorial's always had pretty good soccer program.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to talk, ask the coaches from all around the area. Do you think that goes from Jackson having a pretty strong youth soccer program?
I think that the soccer program in Jackson, the youth program, I think it's good. I think there's a lot that I would like to get involved with to try to continue to make it better. It's really tough these days for all of these clubs, all these hometowns to kind of keep up with the academies and, sending your kid to ODP and all these different things. So the soccer world is extremely political. And I think sometimes kids start to stray away from their hometown and their club because they believe that they're going to have better opportunities. But I grew up playing for Toms River Soccer Association. I played for Toms River because I lived in Toms River before I moved to Jackson. So I just never switched teams. But, we were competing with all those academy teams. And, I had a great quality coach there. So I think that if I can bring that to Jackson, I think it will build up the youth program a little bit. I think what makes Jackson Memorial and Jackson Liberty, I think what makes Jackson kids so well-rounded is just the toughness and the grit. I think once you step into high school and even in the middle school years, you're taught right from the beginning, like, you may not be the most skilled player, but you're going to be the toughest player and you're going to be the most conditioned player. At least that's what I felt like I learned. So I think that's why the Jackson Memorial soccer team is always kind of, a powerhouse. And I feel that Jackson Liberty is moving in that direction. And I really think that, this year and last year, we were really, a tough team to deal with in B South. And I think that we're going to surprise a lot of people this year.
Yeah, we'll get into that shortly. Just looking at your record, 8-10. You guys played some very good teams though, and a very young team you had last year. It looks like, just going off the roster of NJ.com.
Yep.
So that's I love watching, the young teams, and getting to see them develop, and then, by the time they become upperclassmen, seeing how far they came. Um, what are some accomplishments, at Jackson Liberty, as when assistant coach or head coach that the team has had?
So I think that the accomplishments as a whole, as a team, there's I think there's still reaching for those. I don't necessarily know that the accomplishments in the past,
Yeah.
Making the shore conference tournament and making the state tournament, things like that. But I think that we have fallen short of our, major goals and major accomplishments. And I think that with the incoming class last year, as you said, we were very young. I think that they understand that, and I think they want to change that. I think that there has been a little bit of a stigma at Jackson Liberty a little bit, and I think it's starting to change as a whole. It's a great community. It's a great culture to be a part of, especially in the sporting world, and things are starting to rise. And I think the gap between the sides of the school is starting to lessen a little bit. And it's becoming more competitive, and I love it. I love to see it. I love the crosstown rivalry, and I think that Liberty is really just stepping up in so many different ways. So I don't necessarily think that the accomplishments are there yet, but I know they're in the near future.
Yeah, for people that Liberty has not been around that long either.
No.
When did they open? I don't
So
even.
crazy thing, 2006, 2007, that was my freshman year. That was the first year that the school split, and that's when Liberty opened.
All right, I mean, so yeah, that's 14 years is nothing
No.
in the. So the history isn't there yet, but like you said, a lot of their programs, I see it, going to girls basketball, on the rise. Um, did you have any seniors last year on the team?
We did. We had two seniors, Kayla Nelson, and we also had Tori, who was our left back. So we had our left back and our one of our defensive midfielders, left us, and those are two huge gaps to fill. But I think that we have some solid players who are a little younger last year who are going to step in, and you know I think that those two were such great role models, and they really understood the way that I wanted the game to be played. And I think that they have passed that down, and they have showed that younger generation like this is how it's done. So I don't see that being too big of an issue moving forward.
I mean, that's key is, when you have the upperclassmen buy-in, and that's how you start establishing a program, and develop it and be, turn it into like the St. John Vianney's of
Right.
basketball. You got to start with the buy-in from the upperclassmen. They, relay that to the younger classmen, and they just keep, they keep passing it down through
Absolutely.
the years. I noticed your two leading scorers were freshmen. Could you talk about them a little bit?
Yeah, so Alyssa, she was our starting forward. And then Sienna Bowen, who actually started out in the defense for us. She was our left back. And then Tori, stepped up and was able to play that position. So then I was able to move her forward. Alyssa has unbelievable speed, and she has great ball control. And what we really worked on this year going forward so far is her finishing. She gets a little bit nervous when she gets in close to the goal, but last year she was able to put some away, and I think this year she's really going to surprise a lot of people. I think that she was kind of flying under the radar, but I think she's going to have an explosive sophomore year. And I definitely don't think that Sienna Bowen is under the radar. She had an unbelievable freshman year, played every position that I needed her to play. Both just outstanding kids and very coachable. They come from extremely good families and soccer-minded people. I've been trying to get them to play basketball, but happening. But they've both continued to step up and have gotten even better. And I think that they will continue what they did last year. I think they will both probably be the leading scorer on our team, along with a freshman who has just come in, Chelsea Lavezzo. She's also going to be a forward, extremely fast, confident with the ball at her feet. So we have a lot of threats this year, and I think that's what we were missing a little bit last year.
It's funny you said, trying to get them to come play basketball. Coach Goody busts my chops how I love soccer players on the basketball court.
Yeah.
that I might tend to favor them a little, but
Yep.
just I mean, most of them aren't going to be your big offensive scorers, but you could tell on defense who plays soccer.
That was
It's just something I could do.
Yep.
You mentioned Alyssa, player under the radar. You have any other players you think coming in under the radar that are going to get some attention?
I do. I think the two freshmen that I think are going to be a big role on the varsity team. Obviously, still really early. There's nothing that's set in concrete right now, but Sam and Chelsea, I think that they're going to come in. They're obviously under the radar. They haven't been on the program yet, but I think that they're going to give impactful minutes. And then, I think everybody else is kind of coming back from last year. So with Alyssa kind of flying under the radar a little bit, and then those two, I think we got a couple surprises, in store for people.
Who are players you think are going to take the leadership role from the two seniors who left?
I think Haley Weiss. She is our center back. She is our backbone. She keeps everything together. She is so reliable. She's so calm. She's got a great personality. She's tough on the field. She's going to step up and be our big time leader on the field. I think as well as Chloe Cooney. She is going to be our other senior. She's our right midfielder. She's going to be our role model in general. She's going to hold everything together, off the field, the two of them together. They work so well together. And I think that they're really going to keep the level where it needs to be. And I think that, one of our defensive midfielders, Christina Gunnarsson, she's going to be a junior. I think that she's going to take on a leadership role as well. She's really been stepping up in the summer. I relied on her big time. So I think I have three strong leaders. But as well, just looking, talking back again about Sienna Bowen, she's just such a leader on the field non-verbally. So, I have a great class this year, and, I feel lucky to be able to be a part of their success and what they're going to do, because there's so much talent and so much hard work, and, not just my starting players, but, some of my role players as well. So we have a really good family created here, and I'm excited to see who else can emerge as a leader.
It's funny you said you got very young, class that came in, and a lot of freshmen. It seems like I felt after last season a lot of big guns graduated, and this year, the senior classes, the names aren't there, but every school I talk to, their freshman classes seem to be, and sophomore classes are just loaded.
Right.
So, which is, good, for sure, especially next season when we, get back to a little more normalcy, and, maybe a full state tournament, which bodes well for the short conference.
Yes.
Who's your goalie? Because I see Haley playing on the field and was your goalie, unless NJ.com is wrong.
It's actually Haley's younger sister, Cameron Weiss. So she's going to be a sophomore. She stepped in and played in a huge position to be a freshman. So, you really don't see too many freshman goalies, and she's up and she played outstanding. And I think that she's a little bit more confident this year. She's a little bit stronger, a little bit bigger. So, having her in the goal and having her sister right in front of her, we got a pretty tenacious, defensive line. And, we got Brooke out on the outside right back. She's just one of the toughest kids I've ever met in my life. So, we're moving somebody back to our left back, girl who played forward a little bit for us, but is naturally a left back. So, our defense is strong.
That's good. I always, soccer minded. I like to build from the back. That's how I coached back then. Going looking at your schedule for this season, to me, every division is pretty tough. You got your top teams, and then, a couple teams on the bottom end, but mostly every division is pretty competitive. I mean, you got Pinelands, who's returning, top player. Point Borough, I heard they got a couple academy players back. Mm-hmm. Donovan Catholic, I saw them play, which to me, I think they're going to be underrated this year. They played Freehold, Freehold, top team in the shore, but they held their own for a while. Lacey always has a pretty good program, so you're in a pretty tough division. what do you think, like, expectation wise?
Um, I have set the expectations for the girls very high. Since we are not going to be playing out of conference, we really can't afford to lose a game in our conference. Just looking at the way that things are going to be seeded, it's going to go off of record and winning percentage. So I have told them right from the start, every single game matters. Last year we had a 2 or 3 games where um, we let down a little bit, and we lost 1-0 or 2-1 in games that we completely dominated. And I just let them know, like, this year that can't happen. If you want to get a decent seed in the states this year, we need to take care of business. And we have so many strong teams in our conference, but I truly believe that we can not only hang with them, but be in a position to win pretty much all of our games. If we take care of business and we do what we have to do and we step on the field to play every single time, we're going to give a lot of teams a run for their money.
Are you a believer that playing a tough regular season, tough division, gets you more prepared, come postseason? Not sure what that's going to look like this year, but a regular year, playing a tough schedule that gets you ready for states or short conference.
Yeah, I definitely believe that because you don't want to get a big head per se, and think, we rolled over all these teams this year, and you head into states and then you're playing, RBCs and stuff like that, then you're not prepared for that. But I do believe that it needs to be a good balance, because if you're only playing teams that are, crazy tough, then you don't build that confidence and you can't grow as a team and learn different things of how to play and be confident with the ball at your feet. So I definitely think it needs to be a good balance.
Before we start wrapping up, any goals set for, like, individual player goals?
Yeah, absolutely. I would like Sienna Bowen. I think that she should be one of the leading assists. um she should be, leading assistant in not just, our conference, but I think in the, the whole shore conference area, not just B South. I think Alyssa should be up there in goals. And I really believe, maybe some people could call me, bias, and we don't always get to play the toughest of teams because we're struggling with our conference right now. But Haley Weiss is a different player. She's extremely good, and I would like to see her make a state team this year. I really believe in her talent. I believe in her work ethic, the way that she plays. Like I was saying a little bit before, she's extremely calm. She's very good on the ball. She could play in that back line almost by herself and take control of stuff. She doesn't just blast the ball down the field. She finds players' feet. She can move up and get in the mix off of corners and set pieces. So I see such a bright future for her, not just for her senior season, but just in her college career as well. So I really believe, as an individual, accomplishment, she could be a part of a state team.
Funny you bring that up. I have been busting Brandon's chops from NJ.com since the end of last season about his state teams and the preview teams he's been doing, the top 50. I think he's going to eventually block my cell phone. I gave him prop because he had when the midfielders came out, he didn't list Katie Coyle, who plays midfield for Middletown South. He's like, oh, I listed her as a defender. He must get tired. And I gave him a lot of grief about last year, Laskowskis on St. Rose being on the second team All State when she was named all Shore Player of the Year by him, and yet you had 2 Shore players on the first team All State, so it didn't make sense to me. But whatever, he knows it's all fun.